Good morning, church. Good morning. Well, I want you to wake up now. I know you are in a peaceful place, considering all that has been said and what you heard. I know you're contemplating and thinking and giving yourself a moment. But now I want you to stop that and pay attention. The noted social ethicist Reinhold Niebuhr, who also preached at Riverside Church, told all aspiring clergy who dared enter a pulpit to preach from the Bible and the newspaper. Now, that was back in the 40s when people read newspapers and looked at their Bibles. We don't oftentimes do that now, but I do want to speak to what he was trying to get us to understand, that current events can be informed with wisdom. So I have chosen from the Bible in the Hebrew scriptures, Micah 6, chapter 8 verse. What does the Lord require of you? And it was very simple, the response. Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. So I have some things in the newspaper that I want to have do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Inform these things, all right? But first, church, a couple of weeks ago, I told you to be aware of the okie doke. Yeah, we know, okay, okie doke. For those who weren't here, we know that okie doke means that sly, deceptive position that is given to you as an answer to something that is much more confounding and complicated and complex. But this answer is what gives people a sense of relief. And then you kind of go along the way, but then you get fooled because that was only to make you disarmed. So you're not really on point. I told you that about the okie doke, and I said, be aware of the okie doke. Now I'm going to give you something that I read in the newspaper that I said is classic okie doke. So we know that the Oaklawn Cemetery has been cordoned off, a part of it. It's been cordoned off because there are remains of people in there that possibly could have come from the 1921 race massacre. So with all governmental entities involved, that has been exhumed. Those people have been exhumed. They're looking at remains and they're discerning if, in fact, these are the remains of people from the 21 massacre or not. So we know that there is a time that you have to return the remains, and so there was going to be a ceremony to do so. The oversight committee of this group that is doing this, the oversight committee said, not yet. We have to identify as much as possible descendants, because maybe there's some descendants in there. I mean, descendants, there's some ancestors in there. So we hear the story that the oversight committee said, no, don't stop. But the city of Tulsa said, no, we're putting them back. And so they decided to do that. There was a protest. And the protests were people from the committee saying, we want to have time to discern who these folks were, if we can. Don't put them back yet. Now here comes the okie doke. A person speaking on behalf of the people, putting the people back, said, we have to show respect for those who were down there. They were together, and we separated them. So now we have to bring them back and be respectful. That's okie doke, church. Those folks down there are no longer with us. They're not saying, come back. I miss you. That's okie doke. So if you got it, you know it's still alive. The okie doke is out there. Don't go for the okie doke. But that's just one part of the newspaper I read. I read some more. I read that in this time of racial reconciliation, church, it is time for my light-skinned cousins, you know who you are. My light-skinned cousins, that's another word for white people, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. My light-skinned cousins, it's time for you to have some good conversations with us of the darker hue. And the racial reconciliation comes when you begin to hear what people of hue are saying in their life. What may be in your life is not going on in their lives. And there's a reason for that. It is not about the bad cousins. It's about a system, systems that continue to keep us apart and to say there is dominance and hierarchical situations. There's on top and those on the bottom. Church, this is in the Bible because the Bible said, do justice. It said, do justice. That's the first thing. That's what the Lord requires. Do justice. What is justice but love in public? That's what justice is. So there can be no hierarchy in terms of our humanity. We are all human beings, and we fall short of the mark most of the time, but we get back up and try again, and along the way, we help one another. That was a beautiful story I hope you heard this morning with Jenny and Molly, right? I hope you heard that story, because in us is everyone. We're all united. We're all a part. So when you're doing justice, you're loving in public. So we're asking, cousins, time to have frank conversations, but not conversations based upon hierarchy and based upon your sense of privilege, but conversations simply asking, what's it like? That's what I read in the newspaper. Okay. But it also said, love mercy, which is to say, give people a break. Forgive folk. People will make mistakes. It's okay. Love mercy. Give folks an opportunity to go another way. So I'm hearing that too. And then there was a moment that I experienced. We had some work that needed to be done in our home. And so we invited a company to come in and do that little work. And of course, dogs are barking. Okay, settle down, dogs. And people are talking. Oh, that's a pretty dog, da-da-da. Just a little chit chat. And then the first words, as the person is now shown what they need to do, the first words are, how long have you lived here? Now, church, you may think that's an ordinary kind of question that you just ask, right? How long have you lived here? But church, if you are of a darker hue, when your cousin asks you, how long have you lived here? They are not asking that because they want to know. They're asking that to find out, why are you here? How did you get here? What are you doing here? Because you're not supposed to be here. Now, for those folks who may not know, I live in this neighborhood. You know what this neighborhood is. Yeah, you know this neighborhood. I live in this neighborhood. And when they say, how long have you been here? They're like, what the hell are you doing here? I ain't seen nobody like you here in a long time. And they're mistaken because we got folks here in this neighborhood. They're all over. I love it. I love it. Anyway, the question is, church, you're not supposed to be here. Why do folks have that question? You say, Gerald, you're just being too. Now, I know it happens all the time. I use Lyft, L-Y-F-T, to go take me places. 7 out of 10 times, the question is raised. How long have you been here? It's not a question that says they really want to know. They want to know, what are you doing here? So I get that question all the time. How long have you been here? So my stock response is, oh, you're making me do arithmetic. Now, that's supposed to make them shut up, because the arithmetic, that'd be a long time, you know? That's a long time. That's my stock response. Oh, man, now you're going to make me do arithmetic. And people laugh and they keep moving. But I want you to never do that to a person of color again. Don't ask them how long they've been here. Ask them, how do you like being here? Ask them that. Is everything okay? You know, what's happening? Those kind of questions. But don't ask, how long have you been here? Right? So that, I'm love and mercy, because I'm saying I'm giving you a break. I am forgiving anybody who would ask that, because they're asking that based upon a system that says you are not supposed to be here. Now, church, I'm not inventing this. There is a book that All Souls read 2 years ago called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. And the subtitle is How the U.S. Government Segregated America. The U.S. government did that, church. The U.S. government made sure that question got asked. The U.S. government said, we do not want to give housing assistance to people of color, and we're going to segregate them with redlining to make sure banks get the idea. Now, church, that's not justice, and it certainly is not mercy. But we have that to deal with. Church, that is on us. Because we have said as Unitarian Universalists that every person has inherent worth and dignity. So when you believe that, you act like that. So I'm saying to you this morning that it is time to have these conversations that may be a little difficult, but you can do it because you are okay and they are okay. The system doesn't want you to say that they're okay and you're okay. The system says they're hierarchies. They're hierarchies. We're supposed to live in a world where we say we celebrate everyone, but there's a hierarchy. Some folks on top and the rest of y'all need to be down here. Why did that happen, church? Get curious. Start reading some real history books, right? Some real history books that will tell you the truth. And I'm not saying, because here we go. After one of my sermons, one of my cousins came up to me and said, "Didn't we do anything right?" And I know where that was coming from. That was coming from, you're making me uncomfortable. So you better tell me something good about who I am. And I'm here to tell you, church, this is not about individuals. This is about a system that creates individuals that say things like, you don't belong here, right? So I don't want you to think that I don't like my cousins. I love my cousins, but my cousins got work to do, right? That's all I'm saying. You got some work to do. I got some work to do as well. But your work has to do with getting along with me. I mean, yeah, I say yes to that. I say yes to that. And church, here it is. This is not about black people demanding that you respect us. No, black people are saying, treat us like we're human beings. You know, that's all. It's like, it ain't about just like, oh, you just going to do what black people want you to do. Well, there you go, the hierarchy again, right? That shows up. No, take a deep breath and understand they ain't going nowhere. We're going to be everywhere you are. Everywhere you are, we're going to be there. There is a sister named Ursula Burns, who was the first African-American woman to head a Fortune 500 company. And Ursula Burns, and she headed Xerox. And she wrote a memoir. She has retired, and she wrote a memoir that's called Where You Are Is Not Who You Are. And this came from what her mother used to say. Her mother from Panama used to tell the kids as they were living in public housing, where you are is not who you are. And they held on to that because it didn't matter that they lived in public housing. She scrapped together money to send all her kids to Catholic school from first grade through 12th grade. And she had 3 kids. And it cost $65 a month. And she only made $4,400 a year. But she sent her kids to Catholic school. And of course, they went on from there to college. And they've been very successful. And Ursula was Ms. Burns was the CEO of Xerox. And she said that the tagline to that, where you are is not who you are, is, her mother used to say, now remember that when you're rich and famous. Because it works the same way. Where you are is not who you are, right? So that book, Where You Are Is Not Who You Are, is required reading. Read that book. Because Ursula Burns is talking to you, cousins. She's saying to you, we as a people have gone through a lot that we didn't deserve. But we're not angry to the point that we want to hurt you. All we want to do is live, church. It's a good day to live, right? That's all we want to do is to live and have that respect and dignity, right? This is not rocket science, but it is called justice. And where did I read that again? Do justice. Yes, that's it. That's what we're called to do. We're called to be the best we can be in our lives. And I'm going to be the best I can be. And I pass that on to all who come before me, namely my children. And Olivia Camille Whitlock Davis, I know your name, baby. I know your name. Olivia, I got to say this because some people may not know. But Olivia just came back from the University of Ghana in Accra, Ghana. She was a student there. She was a Frederick Douglass scholar. And she was there to do research on the Middle Passage and to work in the field of anthropology, understanding how, because this is my daughter, how music informs anthropology, right? Music informs human beings all the time. And she was getting all of that. And she was on the motherland. Now, I'm very proud of my daughter. But my daughter is not stopping just because I'm happy. She is moving on and doing all that she can be because she has been told that by her mother, Joy, and her daddy all her life. She and her brother have been told the same things over and over again, that you are somebody. We love you so much. And never, nothing will come between us. Nothing, zero, nothing, nada. And that's confidence because those little kids grew up knowing that I'm supposed to be here. And I want you all to know that that's what you're dealing with. That's the coming generation. So cousins, if you're not ready, they're not going to take time to help you because they have a mission to move on. And our job then is to make sure they have a path to move on by dealing with these systems, getting rid of them that would separate us, right? That's what I mean when I say I side with love and I'm loving in faith. I'm loving in faith because I don't know any other way to do this. I can't be angry and sit on the sidelines. I have to love and get out front and say, come on, y'all, let's make this thing happen. And I'm doing it in love. So I read something else, and I know my time is drawing near. They already told me, church. They already told me. They said, when Rick starts tinkling the ivories, it's time for you to sit down. So I know he's getting ready. But I read this. I have to lift up Bob Moses. I read that in the newspaper. Bob Moses. Now and I'm thinking most of us know who Bob Moses was. Civil rights, SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, passed at age 85 or 86. Brilliant. Grew up in the public housing complexes of New York. But that wasn't all he was. You know, there were in his family ministers, college professors, mother and father who urged their children to get the best they could from this education. He did. He was brilliant in math and won a scholarship to Hamilton University, a small university in upstate New York. And there he was doing well, graduated, wonderful young man, went to get his master's in mathematics from Harvard, and began to read about what was going on in the South. People wanting to register to vote, and they were being killed and denied. Folks who are Black trying to vote. And he read, and people say Bob Moses was the absolute image of a person who is not really talkative, but he's friendly. You know, he was an introspective person. So Bob Moses took time to read all about this thing going on in the South. This is a New York kid at Harvard who says, I'm going South, because he made up his mind. These people are trying to vote. That's all. They're just trying to vote, and they're getting killed. And he went down South, and he walked into Dr. King's office, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and he said nothing was going on. Bunch of old people sitting around, but nothing was happening. And so he left SCLC, and he went over to the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, with Ella Baker. And those folks were hopping. And he said, this is where I need to be. So he was part of SNCC. And what he learned in SNCC was that it's the grassroots efforts that will make things happen. It's not hierarchical, top down. That's what the systems tell us. It has to be a leader, number one, top down, right? But he found out that Ella Baker said that everyone is a leader. Everyone is a leader. And you don't need somebody. She told Dr. King this. She said, you don't need to have one person in charge. We are all in charge. And he loved that philosophy that he learned from Ella Baker and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he taught that. He taught that. He brought other college students, our light-skinned cousins from up north down to Mississippi, and he taught them how to deal with people who are not only going to be ugly in their words, they will hurt you. They will hurt you. They will try to kill you. And people still came and they did what Bob told them to do, which is don't resist. Bob became a pacifist. He became a pacifist, and he became an outspoken person against the war. Because he said, how can we do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with your God when we're killing these people in Vietnam? He said, I'm against the war. And he left this country and went to Canada. He first tried to be a conscientious objector, and the government said, no, we know what you've been doing. And so he left the country, and he went to Canada. He got married, a former SNCC worker. They got married. They left the country and went to Tanzania, where he started working with the little African kids about math, because he figured out this is what will get us into college and then better jobs and then own your own companies. If you know math, if you know arithmetic. So he started doing that in Tanzania and stayed there for decades before Jimmy Carter in 1977 said, All conscientious objectors, those who ran from the draft, you can come home. I don't know, some of you are old enough to remember that, but Jimmy Carter did that. He said, you can come on back. And he came back. And when he came back, he got a MacArthur Fellowship, we call that the Genius Grant, to start the Algebra Project, where he worked with low-income kids around math, letting them learn on their own. And that top-down thing was out the way. So he would mark up the school grounds so they would have to figure out how to get to a particular place using algebra, right? He did all those things, and he allowed himself to be small without saying, look at me, the big man. Bob Moses was tremendous. Algebra project is going on all over this country. Kids are learning math. They're learning this. I read that in the newspaper, that this man was doing justice. And I want all of us to understand that this is our time. This is our time. We can do this, church. We can make this thing happen. We don't have to bow down to top down. We don't have to bow down to systems that make us apart. We can ask ourselves, that's me over there. I see that person right there. That's me. We can do that, church. You can look up here and say, Reverend Gerald, I got some Reverend Gerald in me. And I say, welcome, cousin. Church, our job is not finished. You may say, I made it to church. I did it. No, this is called a filling station. You're getting what you need. I used to say gasoline. Now I say battery. I recharge it. There you go. We're recharging, church. That's what we're doing in here. We're recharging because we have job to do. We have to get on up and get on out. Are you with me, church? Yes. Amen.
Thank you for joining us. For 100 years, All Souls in Tulsa has been a beacon of this free faith. We offer our services and programs freely online for all those who are interested. You can help us to do this by making a one-time gift today or a reoccurring pledge. We really appreciate you joining us and being a part of helping us make All Souls in Tulsa what it is. Thank you.
Love will guide us, peace has tried.